Hello and welcome to Free Advice Friday. We are going to be having some fun today. We are going to be experimenting with my new software, the software that I was playing around with last week that I was screwing up with a lot, but hopefully I have become better and more proficient with. So we'll, hopefully that will work. And we're also going to be having a special guest on as well. So looking forward to bringing on a special guest, which is something that I am planning on doing going forward. I'm going to try to have a new guest coming on the show every single week. So this week, of course, is going to be Brad Hyland. You may have already seen the event notification. Next week, it is going to be Brigid Reale. And Brigid is going to be answering your questions about working with a virtual assistant and outsourcing. And then 2 weeks from now, Christopher Tester is coming on. And Chris is going to be answering questions about TikTok. So if you've got questions about using that platform, Chris has done very well for himself on the TikTok platform, so he'll be here. But of course, this week, it is Brad Hyland who is going to be joining me for Free Advice Friday. Brad is going to be, of course, taking questions from you guys on the auditioning and on casting site strategies, which are things that Brad is really awesome at and that he also coaches on as well. So you'll be able to ask questions in the chat and get those questions answered. Just a little bit about Brad before we bring him onto the broadcast. The most versatile voice from coast to coast. Brad works with voice actors on improving their reads and their auditions. Some of his clients include Pepsi Max, and I know that's not Dr. Pepper. Of course, that should be my client, let's be honest, but at least it wasn't Coke. I mean, there's that, right? Ram Trucks, Abercrombie & Fitch. He's also become well known for his work as Santa from Elf on the Shelf. If you want to find out a little bit more about Brad, his website is there at AmericanVoicePower.com. You can, of course, check that out. And then if you would like, you can also check out some of his social media profiles and follow along with Brad on all of the various and assorted social media networks. Like I do, he's just trying to help people and posting some great content on TikTok and on Instagram in particular. You can watch some of his videos and some of his reels and plenty of things that you can learn from Brad. So there are some of his social media profiles that you can check out as well. So make a note of those: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter. So this is what is going on for Free Advice Friday. I hope you guys are ready for this, and I hope you've got some questions. Of course, as always, the way Free Advice Friday works is pretty simple. If you do have questions that you would like to ask and get answered, then you can type those into the comments and they will pop up and we will be able to answer those questions for you. So for the first half hour or so, Brad's going to hang around. And again, he's going to be answering your questions on auditioning and casting site strategies. Of course, I will take questions for business and marketing as well. Although if you've got some of those questions you want to save till the second half when Brad's no longer with us, we can do that then, of course. But Brisket VO says, hi, Mark, and hello to Stanley Cup champion and my coach, Brad Hyland. Oh, see, we've got Brad's fans are already popping up into the chat here, which is really cool. So let's do it, shall we? Let's bring on Brad, and let's have a chat with Brad for Free Advice Friday. So, Brad, welcome to the show. Looking forward to spending a little bit of time with you. Thank you for your willingness to come and hang out and answer our questions. And let's see, we've already got one question popping up in the chat. So let's do this question, shall we? All right. It says, what are some things I should have ready as I wait for my first demos to get done? All right. Brad, why am I not hearing you? I unmuted you. What's going on? Unmute. Okay. Now? What is going on? We tested this. I promise. We tested this. We tested this before. Have you muted yourself?
Not.
Okay, there we go. There we go. We're good. We're good. Stand by.
Hello.
Technical difficulties.
Operator.
Okay, let's bring that question up again so that we can see that question again. It says, what are some things I should have ready as I wait for my first demos to get done? Have you got any thoughts on that, Brad? What should we have ready?
I do. There's so much you can be working on. And you got to always be thinking about, begin with the end in mind. You know where you're going to go. And there's so many little pieces of this train that you have to have put together. So if you're working on coaching and you're getting demos made, that's great. And you can even start chewing on what's your branding going to look like, you think, but don't jump into what a brand is, and don't make your website yet because you don't know. Sometimes you have to start booking some stuff and finding out what you're passionate about and what you're good at and what your sound is. And then you can create a long lasting brand, and don't jump into something where, you know, you're going to have to change it in 6 months or a year. But there's just lots and lots of things to be working on before you jump in after you get your demos.
Yeah, before those demos are ready, one of the things that I like to tell people is get going on your lead list and start building your database out so that when the demos land, you've got somebody that you can start marketing to. And I think that's a really important thing as well. So again, Brad's going to be hanging out till probably around 1:30 or so. So if you have questions that are specific to auditioning or questions that are specific to online casting platforms, Brad is here to answer some of those questions for you. Brad, talk to us a little bit about the casting platforms that you are currently using, and if you're willing to say, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I don't mind saying um I I'll just back up a little bit. When I started, the person who sort of um gave me a steer, a friend of mine, um he was very heavily involved with casting sites, and so I just sort of followed suit because I was trained a long time ago, well before there were casting sites. And then I fired it back up after I quit, and I went in very heavy on casting sites, and I was on all of them, and I booked on all of them. And now I've whittled it down a little bit. But my primary right now is Voice123. I'm a platinum member there, which is, if you're platinum, it's great, and if you're not, people want to make faces at you because they're not sometimes. But um, so um, Voice123, Bodalgo, CastVoices, VOPlanet, the Voice Finder in the UK, which is not that well known. VOquent. I just booked my first job on VOquent a week ago.
I suspect that site is becoming very popular. Man, I had so much positive feedback after my interview with Miles, and a lot of people said that they were setting up their profile for the first time on that one.
Yeah, and I set my profile up so long ago that I had forgotten I had done it. And then I got an email saying, "Hey, somebody loved your demo. We're going to put you in for this." And it ended up being a really, really engaging museum tour for the Titanic, and it was really well written and fun to do. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. I tell people all the time that I'm working with, casting sites are a legit part of what you do, but don't start out thinking you're only going to use casting sites,
Yep.
because that's sort of the mistake I made, and I made it work, but not everybody's going to be able to do that. Now I have someone helping me with my marketing, uh, VA person helping me. And she's way smarter than I am and is super good at the stuff I hate to do. Um, but yeah, that. I kind of have my feet in a lot of them, and even the one that people don't like to say that they're on, I just don't let that rule my life, and I don't voice anything for a crappy rate anywhere.
Yep. Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a question. Briscoe VO, how many samples do you have on VOquent, Brad?
Oh, Terry, that's a good question, and I'll have to go back and look, but I think I just have my commercial demo, my corporate narration demo, and my explainer demo. I think that's the only things I have on there.
Okay, here's one from Victoria. She says, do you always send two different takes for all casting site auditions? That's a great question. What's your thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
absolutely not. It's if somebody says in their description, "I want 2 takes on this," I'll give them 2 takes, and that's easy because I don't read the whole script for casting site stuff, and that's a big mistake people make, is they think they have to read the whole 150, 250 word script, and you
Great
don't.
point.
So if they ask for 2 takes, I will give them 2 takes, but you gotta make sure they're different. You cannot just do a second take where you change your inflection on the beginning sentence, and that's all you've changed. It has to be different, still following the spec. And sometimes if if a product speaks to me, I'll have, that's really worth 2 takes because I have some passion about it.
Mhm.
But not always, no.
Okay, that's a good question too, because I know it's
Yep.
something that a lot of voice actors struggle with. And I mean, for me, look, it's going to sound really cocky and arrogant, but really it's probably more of an uneducated thing. But every once in a while, I see something, I'm like, I don't know. There's only one way that I can imagine delivering it, and that's just the way. And now that doesn't mean that I book it every single time, but it just means that that's how I hear it. And sometimes it's really hard to come up with that second take. But
Yeah, if you struggle and you're giving pause and thinking like, "What the heck am I gonna voice for a second take?" Don't do it.
yeah,
Because if the second take is in there, you'll know it, and you'll know
yep,
exactly what's gonna be due, and often it's for me, it's a difference between, um, a business sound and a business-friendly sound, so it's like
yep,
the business would be, "If you're gonna do this, and then do this," and then the friendly one is that, "Hey, if you're gonna do this, and then do this," and you add a little smile, a little
yep,
and so it's different, but it's the same spec.
yep. All right. So we want to say welcome to a few people. Luke, thanks for watching. Jared's hanging out. Maurice, Veronica, Guerrera, Jim. Welcome, everyone. Diana Birdsall. Hey, Diana. Sharon here.
Birdie.
Almost needed an intervention from Uncle Roy, says Sharon. All right. Let's see. Let's find another question. Oh, here's a good one. All right. Jim says, hey, guys, are P2P sites worth joining? Is there a secret to success with P2P sites? What do you think about that? Are they worth it? And is there a secret to success?
Hey, Jim, thanks for that question. We did talk about this a little bit. Jim was in Switzerland with me. Um, there is a secret, but there's no secret. The secret is, um, you have to decide which casting sites you're gonna use, maximize your profile so that you don't wanna put crap on your profile, and you don't wanna miss the opportunities to tag your samples properly the way that site has you do it, because the algorithm drives better opportunities to you. So, yes, they are worth it, and it's just how you use them. It's like buying a gym membership that you don't use because then it's the dumbest money you ever spent. But if you go to the gym and work out hard, you get healthy and you're happy. Same thing with a casting site. If you update it, it's done properly, it's properly tagged, and it has this good samples that match all the different types of work that you say you can do, you'll get better opportunities that way.
Right on. This is a good one. Jay Michael and I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago now talking about how to recession proof your voiceover business. And obviously, recession is a very big concern. Uh, Amanda Panda says, have you noticed a drastic reduction in job postings on the casting sites? I'm curious to see what you think. I know Armin did tell me in my interview with him that for the first time in 14 years, he said growth on Bodalgo had stagnated, not declined, but just kind of leveled off a little bit. What are you seeing? More auditions, less auditions?
I would have to say that the amount has not gone down. I think there's more people playing than used to be because of the pandemic.
Yep.
But there's also more content that's needed due to the pandemic because everybody's learning at home and training at home and buying at home. So there's more content that's being created still, even though that pandemic fervor is going away. Yeah, I haven't. My business has grown year over year every year, and this year, year over year, I might be a tick behind, but it's only because I took 6 weeks to sell a home and move into a new house, and then I went away for 2 weeks. So that 8 weeks of not being able to do what I'm supposed to do sort of backed off, but still, it's going to be better than last year.
I know when I interviewed Rolf from Voice123, he had said that there wasn't specifically a decline in the number of projects, but he said that he had noticed that there was some shifting where, there may be a little bit less commercial going on the platform right now. And that's not a surprise. If, a recession comes, advertising spend is one of the first things that gets cut from the budget. So maybe a little bit less commercial, but then maybe a little bit more on the corporate narration side or
Right.
whatever. So
Exactly. Yep.
so it offsets itself. Oh,
Yeah.
I like this. This is a good question. Harrietta Voiceovers, is there an audition tip you have now that you wish you had when you first started out?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's part of it's part of my little secret sauce that I share with the people I work one-on-one with, but I'll share the biggest one is on casting sites, you don't have to read the whole script. and that's how you can whittle your process down. So if you're a full-time person, like if you're in IT and you're working to be a full-time voice actor and you only have a certain amount of time, you've got to get a lot out there in that time, whether you're responding to your direct marketing leads and opportunities, or if you're auditioning. And if you're spending an hour on an audition for a casting site, you're really shooting yourself in the foot, because they listen. It's true. And Karen Gilfrey is brilliant, and she and I talk about this fairly often. But the buyers on their first listen through, they're only listening for about 5 seconds, maybe 8, maybe 10, and they're just listening for one thing. And everybody knows what that one thing they're listening for first round through. Do you know what it is, Mark? I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask you, what are they listening for?
I mean, first they're listening to, is it the voice that I'm hearing inside of my head? But
That's it. That's it.
yep.
That's the first thing, and then it's going to be, what's the quality? Did he, do I like it? And then if you match it, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted. Click, you go in the first bucket, and then you get a chance to be in that group with 5, 8, 10, 12, or however many that he's going to whittle down to the 3 they send to the customer. You got to get in the first bucket to get a chance to be booked. So don't waste a lot of time on your casting site auditions. And that means you've got to get really good at them, so that every single dart, every audition is like a bullseye. You go thump, and you do that 15 times in a day. Every single one is a brilliant little 8 to 12 to 15 second broadcast ready, perfect piece of sound. That's the secret, is you don't waste time, and you give them a teeny dose of how awesome you are. And if they like it, you get called back.
It's interesting. You mentioned, maybe 5, maybe 8 seconds that they're listening to make their decision. And one of the things that Rolf talked about in the interview that I did with him on the podcast was they had the open rate set at, I believe he said 3 seconds. So in order for your audition to be classified as opened, the client had to listen to it for at least 3 seconds. And when they had the open rate set at 3 seconds, the open rate percentage was actually very, very low. So they changed it to 1 second to see what would happen. And all of a sudden, it went to almost like 100% open rate. And he said basically what they discovered was that as clients are listening, they're literally just sitting with the keyboard, clicking spacebar, 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 or however it works on the back end, right? But they're literally, you get that first pass through.
Them. Yeah. This is them with their third latte. Click, no. Click, no.
Yeah.
Click, no.
Yep. And that's it. And so 1 second to make that impression and get yourself over into that bucket, which is absolutely crazy when you think about it.
And that's another reason why I tell people there's a lot of really good production geared coaches and very great coaches that'll say, insert a second of silence at the beginning. On casting sites, if you do that, you're going to get dumped.
Yeah.
Because they don't hear it. It's like, oh, they forgot. Boom. The other thing that I'm so strongly about this opinion, Mark, is that for the last 3 years, every single person that hires me, whether it's a $300 1-minute web video or a $3,000 local whatever, I ask for a Zoom call to talk to them face to face. I figure out, I want to talk about the WAV file. I want to talk about your specs. I want to get to know how am I billing. Those people all become more one-on-one friendly kind of, they're going to come back to me people. And I interview them and ask them about their hiring practice. My screen is going crazy. I don't know if that's me.
I was going to say, Brad just turned on the disco lights.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I'm not doing that, folks. It's kind of cool, although I'm probably going to have a seizure in a minute.
I was going to say, maybe I need to put up a disclaimer now.
But I interview them and I say, hey, do you mind if I have a second? I'm curious. What's your hiring practice? What casting sites do you use? How long do you listen? What are you listening for? And every single person that talks to me tells the same similar story. I got to listen to 50 or 100 of these. I'm not listening to them all. I want to find somebody fast. So if they put, I want 100 samples, they're really hoping they find the voice they want in 10.
In the first 10.
That's why it's okay to wait if you can't, but boy, getting in early is a big difference.
It makes a big difference. Yep, absolutely. All right, here's a question from Paul. Hey, Brad, what are the biggest mistake and expectations beginners do with casting sites?
I think the biggest mistake is using it as a practice. If you haven't been trained and
Yeah.
you're not good, don't get on a casting site and just throw crap out there and then hope it gets better, because you're gonna have a chance that somebody just blackballs you, or, you'll piss off a content creator, or you just waste people's time. So make sure you are trained and ready, and if you don't know if you are, you can feel free to ask me and I'll tell you, or somebody else. Um, and I had another one, but that was the most one. Don't use it as practice.
Yes.
Be really good and really ready to compete and be a pro.
That's the one that always bothers me when I hear people say that, I'm just going to use it for audition practice or something like that. But what bothers me about that is if you think about it from the client perspective, you're literally wasting their time. If you're not ready yet, you're wasting their time, which means you're making a bad impression, which is not a good thing.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if there's only a limited number of auditions being accepted, right? They ask for 25 auditions, and now you just took one of those 25 slots so that you could practice,
Yeah.
right? You're doing a disservice to the client, which ultimately does a disservice to the casting site, which is a big problem as well.
Yeah. The
Okay,
other
here's a
the
question.
other mis I was gonna
Oh,
say the other mistake people make is when they're beginning, especially on casting sites, is you'll get an opportunity and it's a big name brand, but the job is $50, and you're like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna do this because I can say that I do work for Abercrombie& and Fitch," or something like that,
mhm.
and you don't have to do that. You can, if you have a great studio and you've been trained and you have demos and you're in the marketplace, you're a pro,
Yep,
and you get to ask for the pro rate. So don't do something for $30 or $5 or
yep,
even 100. Ask for what you want and put it in your price. And if you're on Voices and their budget is, I don't know, it's 100 to 249, you'd like to do it, maybe it's a car spot, but your price is 250 or 300, put that in, because if
yep.
they like your voice, you're gonna get it.
Yeah, and that's something that I actually learned from a couple of the CEOs too. Was it tends to be we would think that if we bid on the low end of the budget that we're going to compete on price and win, but that's not actually the way that it works out, because on the client side there's a quality perception that comes with
Yeah.
that. And so actually bidding mid or higher end on the budget, or occasionally even bidding over the budget, creates a perception of, wow, this person must be really good, or this must be an exceptional quality. And
And
so trying to compete on price is not always a good strategy.
if you compete on price and you have bad sound, somebody may go, "Oh, well, I know why it's low, and I'll go
Yep,
ahead and buy that." But if your sound is great and your script interpretation is good, you get what you're worth on that
yep,
job.
absolutely. All right, let's bring this question up again. This is a question from Jim. It says, I just rejoined Voice 123 and upgraded to the 888 package. My profile is not set up yet, but the auditions are flying in. Should I audition for all that is coming in? So I think there's a couple things to unpack there. First of
Yeah.
all, how the algorithm works in auditioning. And do you start auditioning before your profile's set up?
I have a feeling Jim might be sending in some perfect questions to help me out getting my message out there. Thanks, Jim. But um, you have to be really careful on Voice 123. And people say, "What do you mean careful, careful?" I said, if you get on at the 888 or higher levels and you audition 100 times and you're not good, and your sound isn't good and you're not ready, the the buyers are not shortlisting you. You're not getting thumbs up in shortlisting, and that's what drives your success on that site. Not whether somebody favorites you. It's whether you get shortlisted, which is a like. And if you audition 50 times and get no likes, and then you do another 50 and get no likes, you're out. You're going to get pushed down, and you're
Mhm.
going to go from ranking in the top 30% to the bottom 30%. And then the filter they put on you for that work, you're going to see stuff after it's already got 30 and 40 people have bid on it or done it, or you're going to see the low dollar stuff that nobody wants to do. So you have to be careful. You have to be ready. And if you're not ready and you get a bunch of opportunities and you just start throwing stuff against the wall, it will hurt you.
Yep.
You can, on the other hand, like Voices, you can do that on Voices, and it won't. There's no algorithm that's going to tell you you're not getting an opportunity. You'll still get a ton of opportunities. So, Voice 123 and bodalgo, you've got to be. They're they're more discerning.
Yeah, and that's a really good point to make as well, is that no two casting sites operate the exact same way. And so if you want to succeed on any of these platforms, whichever one you're signing up for and paying to be a member of, make sure that you understand exactly how it works. Guys, thanks so much. There's so many questions popping up in here, and I'm trying to keep up with as many of them as possible. So thank you. Here's one from Kay. What are your thoughts on those auditions on P2Ps that require you to do the entire script? I think we kind of touched on this a little bit. It's a valid question because it comes up
No.
often.
Yeah. And if it's a 15-second spot or a 30-second spot and they say we're only going to accept people that do the whole read and I want to do it and the price is okay, sometimes a voice buyer takes it and drops it into a scratch and uses that to sell it.
Mhm.
And they're not going to steal your voice. They're just getting
Yep.
approval. So it I'll fade it in at the beginning of a 30 or 15. I'll fade in the beginning and fade in at the end. It doesn't take the voice buyer out of listening to what I'm doing, or I'll change a number or I'll change one word. It can't be used because it's not proper, but it's completely contiguous and makes sense.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll do that. If it's a long script and they say you have to do the whole thing, sometimes I'll say screw it and I'll just do a paragraph. And in my note or in my slate, sometimes I'll say, hey, here's a sample. It's not 2 minutes, but I guarantee I can do it in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just so they know.
Okay. This is a good one, although this maybe is an Uncle Roy question, but I want to hear your thoughts on this one as well. Victoria says, do you process your auditions, EQ, reduce breaths, etc., give them the full broadcast ready audio, or we're trying to get these auditions in and out and done quickly? Are you just making sure your sound is good and things are clean?
Great question. And here's my answer. My auditioning process for a casting site, generally speaking, is about 4 minutes, top to bottom. 5 minutes. Open it, read the script, read the specs 3 times, read it twice, do the job, read it again before I hit send. And it's because I use Logic Pro 10, and it's like driving a Lamborghini to get coffee. It's complete overkill for voiceover, but I know how to use it. And through help with Uncle Roy and other people, I've gotten, this where you see my 416 is pretty much my angle of attack here. And when I have my studio set up and my sound is good and I trust my mic and my processing is simple, you can just rattle off an audition and give it a little tweak with your processing, and it's the best you can do. And they listen to broadcast ready stuff. If they want raw, they'll ask for raw most of the time. So casting sites and my agents, I'm always doing a little bit of processing, just like I do for broadcast ready sound that I turn in, because everyone else is, so I don't want them to hear raw sound and have it not be as beefy and polished as they want it.
The one thing that every single one of the CEOs that I interviewed in my casting site series said was that audio quality is the biggest number one complaint from clients on every one of the platforms. And if your sound is not good, that is a problem. And so I think, just at the very least, cleaning it up to make sure that it sounds
Yeah.
professional is
Yeah, you
absolutely necessary
don't
because you're being judged on that.
don't start any audition with, uh, if you leave a big breath or a smack or something in there, you're out. They're not gonna listen to it.
Yep.
You have to edit your stuff so it sounds good. But don't turn it into, because again, if you're on a casting site and you're auditioning for a $500 job and you do it 3 or 4 or 5 times until you're happy, then you step out of your booth and you go edit it and realize you didn't do something right and come back in your booth and then drop in another piece. You've lost all the magic of being just you, your real you, and just
Yep.
talking to somebody. So you might as well not do it.
To slate or not to slate? That is the question. What do you think on that one? Good question,
Listen,
Jeff.
it is a good question, and when people work with me, I give them all my little secret stuff that I do. Um, but I'll give you one quick one is, for agents, you better slate exactly how they ask you to slate, and no more and no less. And that's either front slate, back slate, your name, or whatever your fake name is that they ask you to use. And for agents, don't slate like you're trying to sell your name. Like if I'm slating on my agent stuff, I don't go, Brad Hyland, thanks for listening, because their hair will go up on the back of their neck. I just will say my name, Brad Hyland. I don't even say 2 takes for an agent. They know. The agents know there's 2 takes. For casting sites, this is a little secret. I will do a very short slate if I feel a connection with the story or the product or the service. And as an example, you'll like this one, Mark. It's a barbecue story. I voiced barbecue grill commercial that ran, around in the Midwest. And for the casting site audition, I simply said it was a private invite through the casting site, and I was probably one of 25 people they invited. The guy's name was Robert or something. And I said, Robert, thanks for this invitation. I'd love to do this for you because I'm actually the master barbecue grill guy in Maryland. That's all I said, just naturally like that.
Yep.
And he said it made him laugh. And he said that's why I took him out of the stupor of listening to 50 people saying, in today's world, you want a barbecue that works, same thing. So yeah, I slate, but it has to be quick, not all the time. It has to be pertinent, genuine, real, some little story about why they're going to love me.
This brings us to a very appropriate question to end on then. This one comes to us courtesy of Paul, who says, brisket or pork butt?
Thank you, Paul. As you know, Santa prefers ribs. And so Santa will be coming for ribs in Canada to collect on what Mr. Scott owes me for a barbecue.
Was that like 3 years now?
Yeah, it doesn't go away. And I'll bring Dr. Pepper or whatever else I need to do. But barbecue for me is always ribs.
Right on. All right, so let's bring this up. If you want to get in touch with Brad, here are all the various and assorted social media platforms that he's on: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter. I would say particularly get connected with him on Instagram or TikTok if you're using either one of those platforms. He's always sharing valuable information.
I will follow you back.
There you go. Plenty of great advice and videos that he's posting there. Brad, you also do offer coaching. So tell us a little bit about the coaching that you offer in case anybody's interested in working with you on their auditions and trying to improve. And I'll put your website up here on the screen as well.
I don't have a coaching page, so don't panic if you don't see a coaching page. I'm working on that with Lynn right now. But yeah, I do work. I have some bandwidth for the rest of this year. If somebody wants to work, I don't do single lessons. I only do sessions of 3 or more because you can't get connective tissue with just a one-off unless you're talking to Marc Scott about a question on the VO on your marketing playbook. That's something else. So 3, 4, 5 or more sessions. And I require a lot of homework and a lot of diligence and a lot of patience and a lot of thick skin with one-on-one sessions. And I love doing them. And I think most of the people that work with me enjoy it, and we're having a really good time.
Right on. Brad, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. This has been really cool.
We got to as many questions as we could. If you asked a question that we didn't get to yet on the online casting and auditioning side, I do apologize. I'm going to stick around for another half an hour, though, in the general business and marketing questions that you've asked. I will go back through the chat and we'll certainly catch up with those as well. But feel free to reach out to Brad on social media as well if you've got a question that maybe you really wanted to get answered, but we didn't get to. Brad, thank you.
Thanks. Really nice job, Mark. Thanks.
All right. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye-bye.
All right. So there we go. This is what it's going to be like on Free Advice Friday going forward, having a little bit of fun, answering some questions, bringing on special guests, and that's the plan as we move forward. So let's get to some business and marketing questions now. Luke says, speaking of pay rates, how can I command a respectable rate as a new VO artist when I don't have many reviews or testimonials? Is there a way to find the VO sweet spot rate for new VO artists? Luke, this is a really, really important question. I'm glad you asked it, and I'm looking forward to answering this one because here's the thing. There's no sliding scale in voiceover. Fair market value is fair market value. Rates are rates. There's not a graduated licensing. So if you're a 0 to 2 year VO, you can charge this much. But if you're a 2 year to 5 year VO, you can charge this much. And if you're a 5 year to 7 year VO, then you can charge this much and so on and so forth. That's not the way it works. It's just there's rates. So first and foremost, if you have the ability to deliver professional voiceovers, if you have worked with great coaches, if you have great demos, if you know that you can deliver the goods, then whether you've been doing this for 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years, that is not the point. The point is, are you delivering a quality product? And as long as you are delivering a quality product, then you are absolutely worthy of fair market rates. And I can tell you from experience, over 10 years full time now and 20 plus doing voiceover, not one time have I ever had a client ask me how many years of experience I have. It doesn't matter. They don't care about that stuff. All they care about is, do you sound good? That is what they care about. Do you sound good? Do you meet or match the voice that they hear inside of their head? Can you deliver great sound? Are you easy to work with? Those are the things that matter, not how long you've been doing it. And so as long as you have the ability to deliver the goods, you have the ability to deliver or to charge fair market value for your rates. Absolutely. So that's a really great question. Thank you for asking it. All right, so let's see. Where are we going now? Terry says, best advice for SEO optimization for your website. SEO is a question that really just makes my brain hurt. And I think that just when you start to think that you've figured out some of the rules for SEO, all of a sudden the rules change because Google doesn't want people always being able to gamify the algorithms and all of that sort of thing. I think the most important thing is you want to make sure that you've got fresh content, right? If you updated your website or built your website 4 years ago and you've never put anything else on it in the last 4 years, that's going to be a problem because the site's going to look very stale to Google. And so it's probably not going to give you much love in the SEO algorithms. So I think fresh content is definitely one of the things that you can be looking at. I think that keywording is going to be important as well, but also the amount of content. And this is one of the things, and actually I have it on my schedule to have Lynn Norris come on the Free Advice Friday here. Hopefully I'll get her on sometime in November. And I want to talk to her about some of this stuff because Lynn does some SEO writing and helps voice actors with things of that nature. I believe that in order to really get good SEO, it starts that you've got to have like 800 written words on a page, which is more than most of us will ever do. And so the reality is, as much as we want to be able to get good SEO and work towards having good SEO, it's actually something that you can spend a lot of money on in order to get good SEO. And not all voice actors are willing or able to spend a lot of money. I mean, I don't spend a lot of money on it. I spend no money actually on an SEO. I'm counting on driving my own traffic to my website. That's my plan, is I need to drive my own traffic to my website. And that's how I'm going to keep people on it. That's how I'm going to get people listening to my demos, not relying on somebody to find it by doing a Google search, because I'm honestly, I'm not convinced that somebody is going to find my site doing a Google search. AJB says, when sending a cold email for IVR, is it okay to send an e-learning demo as well? I think that you only send the demo that is relevant to the person that you're marketing to. So if you are planning to market specifically for IVR, I would not be sending an e-learning demo, unless, I guess, if it was an e-learning company that you were specifically marketing to and you were hoping to do their IVR as well. But I say you only send the demo that is relevant. But honestly, I'm not even sending demos. I'm sending people to my website. Unsolicited attachments are much more likely to trigger spam filters. And so when I'm doing marketing emails and sending a cold email to somebody, I actually want them to click through to my website. I don't want to attach a demo, because if I attach a demo, I'm afraid that they're not going to get it because the email may land in spam. So I'm actually driving traffic to my website where they can then hear all of my demos. Now, I might drive them to a page. If I'm marketing to IVR, I might drive them specifically to an IVR page on my website, but they could still get access to all of my demos from there. Here's another pro tip for you, though. If you're driving people to your website to listen to your demos, and that's the objective of your email marketing, if you get a positive response from one of those people, we really liked your stuff, your demo sounds great, we're really interested in working with you. At that point, I would respond back and say, I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to team up. Would you mind if I send you an MP3 copy of my demo for you to keep on file? And so that becomes a great follow-up to keep the conversation going. Good question, though. Again, welcome to Free Advice Friday. It was great to have Brad on. If you were unable to join for the first half of the show, don't worry about it. You will be able to go back and you will be able to watch the replay of this and see all of the questions that Brad had to answer. I also want to take a minute to point out that next Friday, Brigid is going to be on the show. I thought Brigid had got too cool for Free Advice Friday. She used to come and harass me all the time, but then she stopped. And so I was like, oh, she's too big of a deal for Free Advice Friday now. But then I asked her to be on the show, and then she was like, okay, I'll come be on your show. I'll grace you with my presence, Mark, is I think that's what the message said. So looking forward to having Brigid on the show next Friday. We're going to be talking about outsourcing and working with a virtual assistant. So if you have questions about that, you'll definitely want to be joining on the broadcast next week. So let's carry on, shall we? Going through the questions, I apologize if I have missed your question. Could you just do me a favor and could you type it into the comments again? And I will try to keep up. There's a lot of questions that are popping in very fast and furiously right now. So I will do my best to try and find this. Let's see. What's Deborah say? Deborah says, I obsessed over my audio quality until I got it right. I know I drove a few people crazy, Uncle Roy, but that's important. It is important. Look, you're selling your performance, of course, and you're selling your voice, of course, but you're selling your sound as well. And nobody's going to pay top dollar for your audio if it does not sound great. So if you are not sure if your audio is on point, then you absolutely need to have somebody assess your sound and tell you that it is on point. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. Josh says, are there any pros that offer to help optimize all of your online casting profiles for optimal success, especially those of us with limited time working towards becoming full-time voice actors? I can tell you that the V123 pros work with voice actors on Voice 123. I don't know that they do profile optimization for any of the other casting sites. I'm not entirely sure, but they definitely do offer services for Voice 123. And everybody that I know that has worked with Catherine and Natasha are absolutely and completely satisfied with the level of service that they have got and the work that they have done. Let me just throw this up here on the screen very quickly. There's the website. It's v123pros.com. v123pros.com for anything. That's Voice 123. Again, not all the casting sites, but that is definitely for Voice 123. All right, let's see. I'm scrolling. I'm looking for questions. Thank you guys for hanging out, having so much fun. This is the way that we're going to do Free Advice Friday going forward. Very much looking forward to doing that. All right. Josh says, where can I go to find some tried and trusted email templates to reach out to agents and casting directors? Also, I work full-time in IT. How can I best utilize my time dedicated to VO? Goal is full-time VO. Okay, there's a couple of things to unpack there. Let's start with how to best utilize your time. I think one of the things that you have to decide is if the goal is to eventually get to full-time voiceover, you have to determine what does that look like, because full-time voiceover means something different for everybody. For some people, I'm going to be a full-time voice actor and I got to make at least $35,000. For somebody else, I got to make $75,000. And for somebody else, I got to make $125,000. And so determining what full-time voiceover specifically means to you is, I think, the first step, because once you know, okay, to be full-time, I need to have X income. Now you can start to figure out a plan of what do I need to do to get to X income. I think the other thing that I always encourage people with is you've got to be prepared for some short-term pain in exchange for long-term gain. When I was working in radio, prior to going full-time in voiceover, I would get up in the morning and I would do a couple of hours on my voiceover business before I went to work and did my afternoon drive show at the radio station. But then when I got home from work at 7:30 at night, I would work for another 4 or 5 hours on my voiceover business. And I did that for a couple of years, working really long, really stupid hours, trying to build up to a point where I had the income that I needed. And so there's definitely an element of sacrifice that I think that is going to go into that. And right now, I think the bulk of that is going to come from, first and foremost, your training. There's no point in you doing anything until you are trained up and ready to go, until a reputable coach has said, yes, you can do this. You are ready to do this. And then you've got to have at least one demo that you can market with. And so that's the next step, is making sure that you've got that one demo that you can market with. Ideally, you've got a couple more, but at the very least, you've got to have one. I think you need to have your website up and ready to go as well. And once you've got some of those things in place, then we can start looking at, okay, it's time to do some marketing. and work away on some marketing and where's going to be the best place to do that marketing. So, if you've got a full-time day job with limited flexibility, marketing yourself in the commercial space, as an example, might not be the right place to start because maybe commercial is going to require directed sessions and it's going to be more of a daytime thing. Whereas maybe if you're working in corporate or explainer or e-learning, there's a little bit more flexibility. And so you can record those types of jobs in the evening. And I'm not saying that's a hard and fast rule. I'm just saying these are the things that I would absolutely want to be taking into consideration when I'm making decisions about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it and how I'm going to pursue this. So I would definitely be thinking about stuff like that. How you balance your time, though, ultimately, it's going to be different for everybody. Do you have a wife and kids or a spouse and kids? Or, how many hours a day do you have that you can realistically devote? And when you know how many hours a day that you have that you can realistically devote, then we can start to make a plan of, okay, this is what's realistic for me to do, and this is how many hours I have, and these are how I'm going to break up those hours in order to make sure that I'm being as efficient as possible. Terry says, Mark, the interview with Maria was one of the best ones in my opinion. I thought of something for those of us that narrate audiobooks. Sorry, this is more than 200 characters. Okay, so that was the first part of the question. By the way, if you have not had an opportunity to catch the interview with Maria Pendolino, that new episode of the podcast came out yesterday. You can check that one out, How to Negotiate VO Rates. Maria was absolutely fantastic. It really was a great interview. Definitely one that you're going to want to listen to. Probably want to go back and listen to more than one time and take some good notes on that one. But thank you for that. So let's carry on with the question here. This is the second part of the question. The RH has all the rights to the audio. So does that mean that they can use that audio on other types of media outside of the audiobooks, such as YouTube? That's something that you would have to make sure that was written into a contract or some sort of a voiceover agreement in order to make sure that you are protecting yourself in that way. Because if you do not specify, then technically, yeah, in that case, they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do with it. And so that's why I think it's really important that you always specify an outline usage to make sure that you are protecting yourself from something like that potentially happening. All right, here's a question from Laura. It says, we all change over time, but may not see small shifts ourselves and not realize when we need to adjust our branding. What are the early signs that it is needed, and where can we go to get an objective opinion? Yeah, things always do shift over time. People shift over time. Our priorities change. We grow. We get better. Our interests change. We gravitate towards certain genres and away from others. Our voice lends itself more to certain genres and away from others. And so I do think that it's important to pay attention to stuff like that. And I think if you really want to get an objective outside opinion, I mean, specifically on the branding side, I would be talking to somebody like Celia Siegel and having a conversation with Celia Siegel, doing a consult with her and just kind of working through some of that stuff. I think that's a really good place to start to have that conversation. And it's important to be paying attention to that. All right, let's see. Anthony says, I find myself getting so tied up with auditions that I drop the ball on direct marketing. Any advice, please? Yeah, I think this is really easy to do. I think it is really, really easy to put ourselves in a position where all of our time, all of our effort, all of our energy is going in one direction, and that is going towards auditioning and online casting and even agent auditions. And so I think the biggest thing is making sure that you're setting a balance for yourself where there has to be time in your schedule every day that you can give to doing some direct marketing. And when I say some direct marketing, I mean, even if that means that you've got 1 hour and you can only send 5 emails, take 1 hour and send those 5 emails. Always make sure that you are keeping your pipeline full. Obviously, I think that you want to be able to do more emails. The more is better, but that also depends a little bit on where you're at in your business. And there's a difference between growing a business and maintaining a business and what is necessary from a marketing standpoint to grow a business versus maintaining a business. But I do think that you have to prioritize it because one day there may not be as many auditions on online casting, or one day a trend is going to come up and all of a sudden you don't fit the specs for a while. And you want to make sure that you've got something else in your pipeline that's going to keep voiceover coming into your business. And so that is why I think that it is absolutely essential that you are always making a priority to do some marketing. And I think one of the ways that you can do that is by prioritizing the auditions that you're actually submitting for. And the reality is we are not the right fit for every single audition on online casting. One of the things that I did when I was on the different platforms, and I'm not a paid member on any casting site platforms now, but I was very selective about the jobs that I saw. So I only saw jobs that were over a certain budget, and I only saw jobs that were in certain genres. And I was very selective about those things because I didn't want to spend my day sorting through all kinds of auditions. I didn't want to spend my day having to make decisions about, should I submit for this? Or, oh, this is kind of right on the fringe and maybe I could get away with it. I wanted to give my time to the auditions that I had the best shot to book and that made the most sense for me and what I was capable of. And so by setting up those filters, I started seeing a lot less auditions on a daily basis, which allowed me to be more selective, which allowed me to get back some of my time in order to be able to devote myself to some of my own direct marketing efforts. Again, guys, welcome to Free Advice Friday. Looking forward to doing this on a regular basis, having some fun people on, having some guests come on. If you've got questions, business and marketing related questions, this is an opportunity for you to put those business and marketing related questions into the chat. I'm definitely doing my best to watch for your questions and keep up with those questions. So many people watching today. Thank you so much for that. Anthony, Amanda, Joshua, Raymond, Gary's here, Jim, Laura, Uncle Roy, of course, watching as always. Kay hanging out. Let's see. What else is going on? Am I missing anything? Have I missed your question? Where's the boo? Sharon says, where's the boo? The boo is actually having a nap right now. Bourbon Voice says, I use VoiceZam for my site. Is there a better option? Look, I may be slightly biased on this. I do use VoiceZam on my website. And in full disclosure, I am a VoiceZam affiliate. I have just found that for me, VoiceZam it's the best player that's available because I don't have to think about it. I don't have to wonder about it. I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to worry about it. I have played with other players in the past, and sometimes those players are not always compatible across any device in any browser. They may work really good in certain browsers, not work great in other browsers. They may work great on certain platforms, but not others. They might work on desktop, but they don't always work on mobile and all of those sorts of things. And I have found across the board, VoiceZam just appears to work. And so that's one of the reasons why I like it, because I don't have to think about it. I think there's a lot of other really cool built-in features with VoiceZam that you can take advantage of, which make it a little bit better as well. And so for me, I am definitely a big fan. Are there other platforms out there? Yep, of course there are. But I have just found that VoiceZam works exactly for me and does exactly the things that I need it to do. Oh, for crying out loud. How did that get in there? Ban. Well, I guess that's what happens when you go live on the internet. Those comments are gone now. Good grief. Oh, that's a first. Now I feel like I've officially arrived as a YouTube live streamer because I've had a spammer come in and take control of my screen. Let's see. What else can I tell you guys about? Thank you so much for coming on to the broadcast. I do want to remind you about this. If you haven't done it yet, I do offer a free download. This is a brand new resource that I created a couple of weeks ago. Video is where it's at right now. It's one of the reasons why I'm doubling down on YouTube. Some of you may have noticed that I recently signed up for TikTok and I've started posting some videos on TikTok. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent with my Instagram reels, and I recognize that there is absolute value in video. And so I created this free download for those of you that say, I don't know what to do a video about. I don't have any ideas for content. This resource, 20 video ideas for TikTok and Instagram. This is going to get the creative juices flowing. It's going to get you thinking more about video, and you might be surprised at all of the different ways that you can incorporate video into your marketing efforts on a regular basis if you just have a little bit of inspiration. So you can download that at marcscottcoaching.com /20 video ideas. marcscottcoaching.com /20 video ideas is the website for that one. So check that out. And get onto that one. That is a really helpful free resource. All right, let's see. I'll mention this again too. Brigid is going to be on next week. Brigid, are you talking smack in the chat, Brigid? I'm trying to keep up with this, but I feel like I see some stuff like maybe you're talking some smack in the chat there, Brigid. It's gonna be a really interesting conversation next week when Brigid comes on Free Advice Friday. I'm looking forward to having her on the show. But if you've got questions about outsourcing, if you have questions about working with a virtual assistant, those types of things, Brigid will be on for the first half hour, and she'll be there to answer some of those questions for you. All right, let's see. Raymond's question: what would you do if you only had 1 day a week to audition and you had to pay to use a professional studio to do it? How would you structure your time and your approach? That's a tough one. That's a really tough one, because I think if you realistically only have 1 day a week to audition, it is not to your advantage to use online casting. And I only say that because, are you going to have access to auditions on any given day on online casting? Yes. But you're paying a lot of money for your online casting membership, and you're going to be missing out on a ton of audition opportunities for the rest of the week. And so in that case, I don't know that it's the best investment. You're certainly not going to be able to get signed up with any agents. Honestly, I don't know that anymore, that I don't know that you can do this that way anymore, Raymond. And I maybe somebody else has got a different thought on that, but the world moves so fast right now. So many of my clients send me stuff and they're expecting me to be able to deliver same day within a few hours or within 24 hours or less. And, I'm working for my clients at least 5 days a week. Sometimes I'm working for my clients even more than 5 days a week. And you've got to be able to have a home studio in order to do some of that stuff. I don't know if there's an ideal situation where if you only have 1 day a week and you have to use a professional studio, I just don't know that that's going to work, because you can't predict when the best auditions are going to come. And not every audition is going to be worth paying out for studio time either. And so I think if I was in that situation, I think honestly, I'd be looking at, rather than spending money on studio time, how can I get at least a basic home studio setup built in my home? And you can do that affordably, right? You don't need to spend a ton of money to be able to do that. Eric says, hey, Mark, what DAW do you use? I'm an Adobe Audition guy. I was using Adobe Audition before it was ever Adobe Audition. I was using it back in the day when it was still cool at it. So I've been using Adobe for a really, really long time, and I'm very happy with it. I think it's great software. I think it works great. I think it does all of the things that I need it to do. And so I'm a big fan of Adobe Audition. And of course, always, I know that Uncle Roy is there in case of an emergency, and he is always going to be able to help me if I have any problems. All right, let's see. Penelope says, hey, Mark, do you recommend sending marketing emails in the middle of the week, or do you recommend sending emails on Mondays and Fridays too? Okay, this is a really important question, because if you answer this question specifically on the data shows that Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are better days to send marketing emails. And I think the reason for that is pretty self-explanatory. Monday, people are coming back after the weekend. They're getting back into the groove. A lot of people are, getting caught up on their inbox and all of the things that came in over the weekend, or they are planning their week ahead. And so Monday, sometimes people tend to be a little bit more distracted. And then the argument could be made that on Friday, everybody's already checked out. They're already, by Friday, they're into the weekend. And so they're not thinking about anything else. And so that's kind of the argument behind it. And the data does show, email marketing data does show that Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are the best days. That said, do I send emails on Mondays and Fridays? Absolutely, I send emails on Mondays and Fridays. I will send emails on Monday afternoon. I don't usually do Monday morning. And I will send emails on Friday morning and not usually Friday afternoon. But the other side of this equation is any email sent has a better chance at producing results than an email that doesn't get sent. And so if the only time that you have to send emails is on a Monday or a Friday, then send the email on the Monday or Friday. Don't miss out on the opportunity to send emails. If you are in a position where you can schedule your emails to go out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, great. But don't just not send the emails. I think that's really important. Don't just not send emails. Always make sure that you are sending emails. All right, let's see. trying to keep up with all of the questions that you guys are asking. Thank you. Again, if you haven't listened yet, How to Negotiate VO Rates with Maria Pendolino is the new episode of the podcast. It is available for listening at VOpreneur.com. It is on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. It's on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Amazon Music. It's just about everywhere. Actually, it's right here on my YouTube channel as well. By the way, if you haven't done it already, would you please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel? That way you're going to get notified every time that I do Free Advice Friday. I can't do it every week, obviously, but certainly trying to do it as many weeks as possible. Next week, I mentioned it's going to be Brigid coming on the show. The week after that, Chris Tester is going to be coming on and answering your questions about TikTok. So some fun things are in the works, and I've already started planning out, who else can I have on the show, and what other experts can I bring in to talk about some things. And so there will be some fun on Free Advice Friday. Again, if I missed your question, I absolutely apologize. There were a lot of people on here today, and the questions were coming very fast and furious for a while. And so I definitely know that I probably missed some of the questions, but if I did, I do apologize. I certainly do my best to keep up with everything and try to answer as many questions as humanly possible. Oh, here's a really important question that I did miss earlier that we've got to get to. Are there any updates on the 12 days of VO, which of course is the 12 days of Christmas, the 12 voiceover days of Christmas, which is a promotion that I run every year at Christmas time. What I can tell you for the 12 VO gifts of Christmas, I have a list now of everybody that I'm hoping to reach out to. Several of those people have already confirmed, and probably actually, believe it or not, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be sending emails out to try to confirm with some of the rest of the people that I have on that list. So the 12 VO gifts of Christmas is absolutely happening this year. Certainly going to be reaching out to some great people and trying to come up with some great prizes. We'll definitely be having some fun on the broadcast. And so yes, 12 VO gifts of Christmas is in play for 2022. Here's one final question that I'm going to answer for Free Advice Friday. Luke says, do you believe certain sectors, telephone, corporate narration, explainer, will become replaced by AI, making it harder for new VO artists who rely on those niches for income? I do think that telephony is probably going to be a prime target for AI, particularly in the beginning. And the reason why I say that is because telephony doesn't have to be as fluid. It doesn't have to be as conversational. It tends to be shorter sentences, and it's a little bit easier to piece it together in AI. I don't know if any of you guys have listened to an actual AI narration, like watched one get put together. I've had the opportunity to peek behind the scenes of these things getting put together. And there's a couple things I think that's really important for people to know as of right now, as of October of 2022. First and foremost, the technology is still very much in its infancy. Even though everybody's talking about it, I think the technology is still very much in its infancy. It is not as simple as taking a script, pasting it into a generator, pushing a button, and then having it spit out your complete AI. In order to get a narration that sounds even quasi-decent, there's actually a great deal of engineering that still needs to happen in the background in order to do it. And so that in and of itself makes it a deterrent for some people. And it is still very much geared towards short sentences, single words, quick phrases, as opposed to an actual narration, as it were. And so that's why I do think that telephony is probably one of the ones that would be replaced first. I think that the low-hanging fruit is definitely something that is going to be at risk. And when I say that, I'm talking about low-budget jobs that you're going to find on platforms like a Fiverr, an Upwork, a Freelancer, even on the casting site platforms, those low-budget jobs, those $25 jobs, the $5 jobs, the $50 jobs. I think those are the ones that are going to be replaced first, because I think those are the jobs where they probably don't care as much, right? There's does it sound good, or is it good enough? I think is a lot of the conversation that is happening right now. So those are things that I would certainly be taking into consideration. I think we're still a few years away from AI taking over everything, replacing everything. It's not something that I'm certainly sweating about at this point, not by any stretch of the imagination. But I am paying attention to what is going on. I think there's still very much a call for the human voice. And so if I was working exclusively on low budget voiceovers, I would start to be a little bit concerned. But the way to work around that is to constantly be improving your skills and constantly marketing yourself and opening yourself up to the new possibilities and the new opportunities that are out there. So that's the way that you fight against it. All right, guys, again, just as a quick reminder, Free Advice Friday, next Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern. Brigid is going to be on the broadcast. Brigid Reale. She hates it when I say that, which is why I say it. Brigid is going to be on the broadcast for the first half hour, just like Brad was today. If you have questions about outsourcing, if you have questions about working with a virtual assistant, Brigid is going to be here to answer those questions. So that is Free Advice Friday, next Friday. That is going to be happening. So make sure that you mark your calendars. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done it already. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get notified. If you go to my YouTube channel right now, if you go to the home screen on my YouTube channel right now, the broadcast for next week is already set up. And if you click onto it, in the lower left-hand corner of the thumbnail, once you've clicked onto the broadcast, there is a notify me button. And you can click that button and you will get notified when I go live. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel and make sure that you click the little bell icon so you'll get notified so you never have to miss another one of these Free Advice Fridays. Really looking forward to doing this. I have to justify the $700 that I just spent on all of this new streaming software. And so that became accountability for me to make sure that we're doing fun, cool things on Free Advice Friday. Again, if I missed your question, I do apologize. I certainly try to do my best to answer as many questions as possible, but thank you for watching as always. I think I might do some ribs this weekend in honor of Brad, and then I'll post some pictures on social media to torture him with it. Whatever you decide to do this weekend, have fun, stay safe, and as always, my parting advice will be to go find some leads.